Well, the one other thing we can also do is we can extract the logic from our cases into their own functions so that our switch case statement becomes very short. So in the reducer here, I can add a new constant which I could name add ingredient. So basically the action type will handle. This is a function which receives the state and the action just like the reducer itself does. But there I only want to handle this code. So I'll grab all the code from the case action types add ingredient, cut it, and move it into add ingredient, as shown in last module. The code is the same since we still access state and action in there. Now in my case here, I therefore only have to return add ingredient and pass on the state and action we get in the reducer. And this does essentially the same as before then, but now inline, which of course is a super quick way of seeing all the cases we're handling. And obviously I don't just want to do this for add ingredient, I want to do that for remove ingredient too. So let's create a function, remove ingredient, a ES6 arrow function again. And again, we'll just cut the code from the remove ingredient case here, including the return statement, of course. And since we return this here in the function, we can just execute the function and return the result here, which will be the updated state. So remove ingredient is executed here, and we pass a state and action, just like with add ingredient. So with that, we got these two functions outsourced into that. Now the same for set ingredients, of course. There I'll also cut the entire code and create a new function, set ingredients. As always, expect state and action here, and then paste in the code like this. And in the case here, I can then return set ingredients and pass state and action as well. And last but not least, we do the same for fetch ingredients failed. Of course, that's a very short one, but still, fetch ingredients failed also takes state and action as input and will then just return the updated state. So here we can simply call this, return fetch ingredients failed and pass on state and action. That's important. And with that, we return the state for the default. We got a super lean reducer, which still should of course do its job. And it does, as you can see. So the idea behind this, of course, is not to shrink our file. It's as long as before, even a bit longer. But the switch case statement is much leaner, and we can quickly see which cases are handled in the reducer. And that's the whole idea behind that. Now, we can of course do the same for the order reducer. So there I'll also add a function purchase init, where I get a state and an action, and where I return something, or I don't do yet, but I do now because I cut the code from the purchase init case and put it without any changes into purchase init, just like before, and then return purchase init here for this case, just as in the burger builder, where I also always returned these function calls and the result of the function calls, to be precise. Now for the order reducer, I'll therefore also create a function for purchase burger start, where I get state and action, where I will then also quickly put in the code of that case like that, and therefore return the call or the result of the call to purchase burger start. The same obviously for purchase burger success. There we got a little bit more code. So const purchase burger success is a good function name. It takes the state and action as always, and in there we put the code we just cut out of our switch case statement. So now let's simply return the result of a function call. And one thing I did forget, of course, all these function calls require state and action, since we do expect that here as an argument. So of course I should add state and action to all these function calls in my switch case statement. With that, let's continue. Let's do the same for purchase burger fail and all the other functions. Of course, you may skip ahead in case you don't want to do that. So purchase burger fail, state and action. And there too, let's put in the code we cut out. And let's then simply return purchase burger fail. And there pass state and action to the function. And the same for fetch orders start, of course. So const fetch orders start. You see, refactoring such a reducer can be a bit cumbersome, but obviously I want to show you how to do this entirely and not just for one function. So here we'll also return the result of fetch orders start after passing state and action to it. Now we got fetch orders success, a little bit more code again. Let's cut it out and create a new function, fetch orders success also receives state and action. And then we put in the code we just cut out and as before, simply return a call to fetch orders success, the newly created function, and pass state and action to it. And with that, we're almost done. One more to go, fetch orders fail. So there, let's have a constant fetch orders fail. Also receive state and action here. Return something, return the code we just cut out. And let's call fetch orders fail for this case. So we return the result of that call here too. State action like this. Let's put the state for the default statement in the same line. And now we got a lean switch case statement for this reducer too. With that, let's go through our burger builder here one more time to really see if that's all working. Let's order a delicious burger. Just input anything, doesn't really matter. Just want to see if we got any state issues at any of our containers. So let's click order here. We are redirected. And on the orders, we see all the orders, including the one we just pulled together. Let's also try something else. Let's start building a burger, cancel, that works. Continue. Let's go back to the burger builder. We reset as wanted. We can go to orders. Let's now continue one more time. So that all seems to work. And with that, we implemented some advanced Redux techniques into our burger builder application. Now definitely feel free to enhance this even more by making the orders deletable, as I said, or viewable, that you have a details page for each order. Whatever you want. I like the application as it is right now though. We implemented a lot of cool features, a lot of React and Redux stuff, and with that I feel very comfortable to move ahead and implement authentication in the next lectures.